How did you do that?
I fully get where people have their problems with this game. Like, in terms of the entire game as a whole, this second half now that we're about to get into is definitely where the game starts to drop off a little bit for me. Especially in terms of, like, in terms of the difficulty, it becomes a hassle. A lot of these levels are genuinely, like, some of the most boring things to run, and that's why I typically don't enjoy the second half of this game as much as I wish I did. It's not like it's not a complete game ruiner for me. It doesn't like completely bog down my experience, but it bogs it down just enough where like I'm in this situation where I'm like, yeah, no, I can see where a lot of people would start to have their gripes with this game. In general, the common sentiment is that, oh, this game is just bad, period, like all of the levels. I don't really think that. I just think that in terms of this part, yeah, these levels suck shit. And I do want to clarify from the last video. I was talking about Unleashed and how the whole Unleashed recompiled thing kind of sparked up this whole new era, I suppose, and to an extent, yeah, I can see that. The game deserves its flowers. I played Unleashed Recompiled. It is honestly, yeah, the definitive way to play Sonic Unleashed, I would say so. But I I kind of omitted a lot of that in the previous video. To just kind of be like, well, Unleashed gets all the praise, so why doesn't this game? And it's like, well, Sonic Labyrinth for starters, I'm not too shocked. But I can, at least in Unleashed Recompiled's case, it does a lot of stuff, like adding extra, like, quality of life features that really fixes a lot of the problems that people would have had initially with the game. Like, of course, like, 1080p, 60 FPS, like, that's kind of a given. Like, that's fair enough. But even just little things like music attenuation, there's like, there's just a bunch of different options for like PC settings, which I think is super neat. And I feel like this game could really benefit from that. Just a bunch of like quality of life features that make it less of a hassle, especially when it comes to this part. Like, you're seeing me right now doing this. This level sucks. I don't like it. I don't like it. I really don't. There's a lot of, like, different moving parts, and a lot of the platforms end up looking exactly the same, so you can't really know for certain where you're going unless you recognize the arrangement of platforms moving around, and you like know exactly where you are, where the teleporters take you. You're not really gonna know because all of the platforms are the exact same borderline, and it gets worse. It gets worse later on, but I'll get to that when we get to it. One of the main things I want to talk about in terms of like quality of life features that I feel like the game could have and it would highly benefit from is a map. Just like a way to see like the general layout. I know that kind of defeats the purpose, but like when you don't have a sort of map of this area and you're just kind of running around, especially in a lot of these later levels where some of these levels suck ass. Some of these levels suck ass, and some of the locations that you can get to, you will not be able to pinpoint unless you have, like, insider knowledge of the game, as it were. Like, there are parts where you wouldn't know unless you just, like, somehow, someway, found yourself stumbling upon it. And I think that kind of sucks. There's a glitch where, well, I wouldn't say it's a glitch really, but when you open the map, you can kind of like freely look around with your like movement buttons, as they were. The thing about it is that you can look around freely, right? But it despawns all of like the keys, all of the enemies, so you can't see what you're actually looking for. The one thing they didn't do when you unpause and the camera sort of like glides back to your position, they forgot to make it so the assets are still invisible. So a lot of the time, you could just... This is what I'm on about, by the way. Look at this shit. I went to it as soon as possible because I wanted to get it out of the way because I knew it was going to be so fucking annoying. Look at that shit. That's crazy. Like, you wouldn't be able to tell that that's there unless, like, you somehow fucked around in that area. Because when you go out of the, like, field of view, as it were, I lose this key now, and it really pisses me off, I remember. When you go out of, like, the field of view of, like, an enemy, or a key, or what have you, or, like, a platform, in this case, it respawns when you come back to its original position, which in that platform's case is all the way over in the middle of nowhere where you can't see it. So unless you're hanging around that area, not moving around, and you just like, if you know that it's there, you're not gonna know about that. And that's so fucking stupid. Whoever designed this level actually sucks. It is just it's a really bad level. A lot of these levels kind of are. There's a, I think it's 3-3, I think, that's really fucking stupid. It's a really bad one. There's a lot of different, like, diverging pathways, and the whole theme of it is that there's, like, little waterfalls that you can go down. And the game doesn't teach you that prior, that you can just... That was 3-3, that's what I was... Okay, I'm getting my levels mixed up. But yeah, no wonder I thought of 3-3, because it was the worst fucking level in the game. Who would have thought? That level, the one with the waterfalls, I think it might be 4-3, I think. Excuse me, by the way, I do have a slight cold, so that's kind of why I'm, like, sniffling and stifling my words a little bit. That level in particular, the one with the waterfalls, they don't teach you about the whole, oh, you can go down this. If it's, like, if the water's flowing off the edge of the map, you can actually go down there. They don't teach you about that, you're just kind of supposed to figure that out. And usually, I'd be all down for that, I'd be like, hell yeah, experimentation. That's awesome. Love to see it. But when there's really no indication that you can do that, and it's just kind of like, hey, you can do this now. And especially with, there's a small break in the barrier in one of the levels, where you're clearly supposed to, like, fall down. Well, I say clearly, it's not really all that clear that you're meant to do that, because there's a spike trap right in the middle of it as well. So, for all intents and purposes, you're gonna see that, like, missing barrier, and you're gonna see a spike trap, and you're gonna think, maybe I shouldn't go there? That's what I would do in that situation, at least. I don't know about anyone else, but me personally, it just doesn't, it doesn't scream like I should be able to go down there. This level is really fun, though, just, like, zooming through the hallways. Like, it's very straightforward, surprisingly, for, like, one of the last levels. But I like it. I think it's really good. Yeah, I completely flew past it. The map glitch that I was on about earlier. You can do a sort of... Well, yeah, you can do a sort of glitch with it that lets you kind of see the items before your camera snaps back to Sonic. And a lot of people recommend, oh, that's how you should play the game. You should use the camera, glide around a little bit, see what you can look for, see if you've found anything that you haven't, you know, gone to previously. And yeah, and then if you know, unpause and there's a key there, go to it. I feel like that kind of defeats the whole purpose, and I know I was just complaining about how the game doesn't really give you a map or anything of the sort, and just kind of expects you to run around in, like, a, well, labyrinth, as it were. Holy shit. The game is named after the thing that you're doing in the game. Crazy. Actually scandalous. But, yeah, no, I kind of fuck around a little bit in this level, I think. And then it comes to the waterfall one, and that one's just a little bit kind of... Well, I say that one's a little bit shit. I've memorized the level coming up now really, really in depth. So, you're gonna see, like, one of probably, like, the quickest runs of that stage in a minute. Something I do want to kind of talk about a little bit, which I don't really feel like gets said a whole lot, but I was seeing, I was checking Twitter last night, I know, horrible, and I saw a post that, like, really caught my attention. A lot of the time when I see Sonic community posts, it's either from motherfuckers engaging in model discourse, because that's kind of the side of the community that I hang around. I got the birds, by the way. That's cool. Yeah, but, because I hang around the side of the model community, there's a lot of kind of, like, stupid shit, is the best way I can describe it. Without being, like, too harsh on people, that's the best way I can describe it. There's a lot of stupid shit that happens because of the discourse surrounding that kind of community. I dropped my key. No. There was a tweet that really caught my attention that wasn't about model discourse, but I think it was SonicTheHedgehog that replied to it, and it caught my attention. It was essentially someone damning the entire Sonic franchise to a state worse than 06 because they personally didn't agree with everyone else's favorite writer. So, like, most people in the Sonic community prefer Ian Flynn to the others, like Pontac and Graf. I've never been a huge fan of it. I personally like Ian Flynn's writing, even though it's, like, more on the reference-heavy side, and I don't really fuck with it, but I can admit that it's definitely better than whatever the fuck Pontac and Graf were cooking up for, like, Lost World and Forces. I'm sure they're all lovely people, but I don't want to see a Sonic game written by those two ever again, because those were, like, some of the games I played, like, after Sonic Adventure 2 and Heroes. The quality dip was noticeable. I find that really funny for some reason. But what I don't find funny is damning an entire series that you claim to like to the depths of hell because you personally prefer a different writer. That's kind of nutty to me. And it made me sort of realize that Sonic Twitter can really just have it out for the series that they claim to like, all because the fan base has differing opinions from them. There's something to be said about that being a very negative way to look at the fan base, as it were. Opinions are definitely key within the Sonic community, and I think it's kind of funny that we're having this sort of discussion while I'm fighting the final boss of, like, what everyone claims to be the worst Sonic game of all time. But I digress. Opinions are key in any kind of fandom, and to essentially damn an entire series and wish the worst for a game franchise that you claim to genuinely like because the fan base has differing opinions to your own. I feel like there's something to be said about you not being a fan of the series, and I know that sounds like such a, oh, fake fan, get out kind of response, and I don't personally agree with those ones either. I feel like if you're the type of person in a fan base to say, ew, new gen, get out of my fan base because you personally prefer something different to someone else, you're kind of a pathetic I'm sorry to say. I personally don't agree with, like, many of the people that I see on Sonic Twitter, especially in the model discourse sort of area. Like, there are moments where I'll be like, yeah, no, that's a fair critique, but other times I will just sit there and think, like, this is such a weird kind of thing to be hung up on. A lot of the time that comes from people looking at, like, any sort of, like, 2D illustration and going, oh my god, we need models like this, we need models like this, blah 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 blah. And it's like, half the time, sometimes I can see it. Sometimes I will genuinely see it and I'll be like, yeah, no, that would look fucking fire as a 3D model. Big example being, like, Tyson Hess's, like, art style for Dream Team. If they made models based on that, which they kinda have with the actual in-game Dream Team models, I suppose, but if they like actually went the full way, stylized, made renders in the sort of Tyson Hess like Dream Team style, that would be really cool, I think. But a lot of the time I'll see shit. There was one about the new Sonic and DC crossover, and someone saying, yeah, these guys would look really cool as 3D models, and it's like, no. Put simply, no. I think the artist who works for DC and is doing that crossover does a really great job at drawing the Sonic cast, but I don't think they would work as renders, personally. We're about to beat this boss anyways. There's like, I think it's like one hit away. But before we do, I wanna let the takeaway from this like series, as it were, be like, just let people have fun. Like, let people share their opinions. At the end of the day, a fan base thrives on its differing opinions and other people maybe not enjoying the same things from you, but being able to at least, like, explain why they enjoy something is part of the fun, I suppose. The whole discussion and sort of nuance of, like, people enjoying separate things, it can lead to some really interesting discussion in the community, and I feel like a lot of people are quick to shut that down because it's just not something that they personally favor. Like, take me for example. I'm sat here preaching about Sonic Labyrinth and how it's actually not a bad game, really, and if we were on Sonic Twitter, I'd be getting grilled at the stake, but, you know, here we are.